Yeah, his Eloquent course. Streaming monitor. Very good. That's happening. We are live. Look at that. Magical.
We're live.
Redlink.ca/eloquent
I
dash.
got it.
It was eloquent patterns. Eloquent
Yeah.
performance patterns.
Eloquent course. Yeah, eloquent performance patterns, but it's at redlink.ca/eloquent course.
Yep.
Yeah, and then Livewire as well. Yeah.
Boom,
Okay.
boom,
Wow, I
boom,
think that's all of them.
boom.
I think it's all of
Yeah.
them. Okay, cool.
So
So
we're
we are on what
live.
episode here?
Wrong.
We're going to reveal to everybody how unprofessional we are here.
Doesn't matter. Everyone knows. No one knows, actually. We cheat with the whole... Where 89-ish Laravel.
89. No, we did 89 last time. It's 90.
Are we up to 90? Okay, right. 88.
We're at 90.
88. We're at 88. All right.
88?
Jumping.
Oh, no, wait. Are we really? Okay.
Yep.
All right, my bad. All right, are we ready to start recording?
Ready to go.
And a 3, and a 2, and a 1, and a click. There we go. 87, you said?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another Laravel News podcast. This is episode 87. Thanks so much for tuning in. I am
88.
once again joined by the amazing 88. This is episode 88. It is episode 88. Yeah.
We just talked about
Oh,
this.
my. Literally just. It's okay. It's okay. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I'm joined by my constant companion, good friend, Australian mate, Mr. Michael Dorinda.
Hello. I have finally made it back home.
G'day, mate.
G'day, mate. Finally home. Your country did not want me to escape. They were intent on keeping me first.
In return to your fictional country.
In my fictional country, yeah. So I'm just in LA where they film Australia.
Yep. Must be a nice life. I mean, how is it? Like, do you know, is it like a movie star life?
Yeah, it's warm all year round. Never have any rain. We have the occasional earthquake, but other than that, we're good.
Oh, I'm talking about in LA. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you are. Yeah. That's what you're talking about. Sorry, yeah. I'm behind you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm behind. Okay. Mm-hmm. We're still okay. Anyway, hey, you know what? This should actually be a pretty quick show today. We've only got like 5 items on the docket today.
Yeah,
so it's been, you know what, though? We're going to...
Last week, we had Laracon last week, so there was not a whole lot of news. Eric was, doing his thing. He put the recap out for Laracon pretty quickly after the conference, which is good.
It was good.
Not a lot going on. Taylor and the whole Laravel team was in New York, so they were checking in on pull requests, but not a lot of actual development went on, I don't think. Taylor announced, amongst other things, Laravel 6 is coming with semantic versioning support.
No, not yet.
Laravel Vapor's coming, but among other things, he announced a new member joining the Laravel team in James Brooks, who's based in the UK. So congratulations to him on taking up a new position with the company and coming on board to do his bit for the open source community. So welcome, James.
Was James there?
I don't believe he was, no.
Okay. You confused me because you said the Laracon team was there, or the Laravel team was there, and I was like, "Oh, was James there?"
Yeah.
Because I don't think I've met him before.
No, so
it was cool to meet.
And
of course,
Denise and Taylor.
Muhammad wasn't there either. So
Muhammad has a hard time entering the country, of course. And
just froze.
And so James is new, and hopefully Muhammad makes it across at some stage. So we'll get there.
Yep. Had a similar thing. So like Wilbur Powery, shout out Wilbur, who now works for Wilbur, the company I work for. Yeah, we couldn't. He was all scheduled to go to Laracon and everything too, and couldn't get a pass or couldn't get a visa. It was
that's
ridiculous, really difficult. Yeah, it's seriously a huge bummer. So anyway, next year. Okay. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Why don't we start talking about Laracon? It was a great year. I would say for me, the best Laracon I've been to so far, which is saying a lot because this was number 6 out of 7.
You've been to
right?
Most of them, haven't you? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, all but one. So this was the best one I've been to. It was really, really fun.
Yeah.
I think it helped that you were here this year. Last year you weren't here, which really sucked.
Yeah.
That was pretty tough. That was pretty tough. I cried myself to sleep most nights.
Yeah. I
And
mean, I don't blame you, to be honest.
no, but it was really good. So I was trying to think about like what are some of the things that made it good. So we had it in New York 2 years ago, actually. And I felt like the venue the 2 years ago when we were in New York City was quite a bit smaller. It was a little bit more cramped. And so it was sort of difficult to find people. Like it just
Mm-hmm.
felt like you were constantly in like a crowd, you know? Um, and so, yeah, it was a little bit different. I liked Chicago a lot last year, but it was a little more spread out. So you had some people who were kind of staying further south in Chicago, and then you had other people who were staying around like Millennium Park, that area in
Yeah.
Chicago, and so it was difficult. There was no like common meeting place really, other than the venue, which
Yeah.
people didn't really stay at for all that long. So, but this year, everything was right around Times Square. Everything, not just the venue hotel, or not, not just like the event hotel, but like the venue was right
Mm-hmm.
there. Like
Yeah.
I walked across the street, so from my hotel, it took me like 2 minutes to get to the venue. Like walk down the street and we were right there. And you would just walk through a tunnel and then we'd walk down the street and the venue was right there. So it was super nice because like everything we did was like within a like 5 block, maybe 10 block radius of Times Square.
Yeah, definitely.
And we like randomly run into people from Laracon like on the street, which
Mm-hmm.
in New York City, which was kind of insane.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it was good. It was lots of fun. It was good
yeah,
to be
everything
there,
was
to see
within walking
everyone.
distance.
Yeah, it was nice because last year I couldn't get there because Eli was born, and this year I was very lucky to get out to the conference. But Ree has said, make the most of it because it's not happening again. So
So
all going well, we'll have hopefully another addition to our family next year. No announcements. No
woo!
announcements. No, this is not an
Oh darn it!
announcement.
Oh, I
But
thought this
all
was the
going.
announcement.
We would like to
Sure,
have
sure,
a
sure.
second one. So all going well, that'll
Yep.
be a thing next year, and then it'll probably be a while. So I'm gonna need all of y'all to make the effort to come out to Sydney in future. Thank you very
Yep.
much.
Absolutely. They're kind of you.
Yeah.
2020
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or 2019, either or.
All of the above. Yeah, it'll come this year, come
Okay.
next year.
So yeah, on the topic of Laracon, so what did you think about the half-hour time slots this year?
I really enjoyed the half-hour slots. I think there were a couple of talks that I wasn't, not to say any of the talks were bad, but there were a couple of talks that I wasn't as interested in. And so the half-hour time slot meant just as my attention was fading, the talk was over. So
Yeah.
that was good from that perspective. It meant that people really got into their talks a lot quicker. There was less of the vanity stuff talking about, this is where I work and this is where I'm from and this is all, all that kind of stuff. That was very
Yeah.
quick at the start or the end of the presentation. And then it was, 30 minutes of content because you had to get your message across. So I really like that format. We're going to do the same thing for Laracon AU in October. And I'm actually sending out the invitations to the speakers. That's what I was doing just before we jumped on the call. So yeah, that's all ticking along. Hopefully it all goes well for us this year as well.
I feel like with like the half-hour time slots too. So it used to be like you'd have a 45-minute or 50-minute time slot and they'd finish in a half hour. So they'd be like, okay, so we're finished a little bit early, so I think we have time for questions. And then you
Yeah.
have like 10 minutes of people awkwardly trying to explain themselves over a no microphone, just like from the crowd.
Yeah.
And the speaker just trying to answer like some super specific question that doesn't apply to anybody else. That's always the disaster. So
yeah, it's
no, I
always
think
tricky.
everything moved. Yeah, everything like kept on moving, and like you said, like if there was something you weren't interested in, like no problem, it was over in a half hour.
Yeah.
Justin Jackson, of course, did a great job again this year, kind of emceeing the event, moving things along, keeping us entertained in the transitions, playing games, doing talent contests, which, oh my word,
Yeah.
some super awkward moments in that one, but it was pretty, pretty
It was
funny.
It was, it was
Did a
good to
good
do
job.
something different. And yeah, as you say, Justin did a really good job at emceeing and keeping everything moving and keeping the audience engaged between presentations. Like he didn't just go up there and introduce the speakers. It was about, actually running the event. So
Yeah.
I've taken some notes for when I have to do the same thing in Sydney.
Yeah. So I'm not going to speak, but you're just going to fly me out to MC the event. Is that what we're doing?
Is that what it is? Yeah, sure. I'll fly you out as long as you pay. That's not a problem.
Yep. Sounds good. Let's do it.
Cool.
Okay, so in addition to the talks, there was a lot of stuff released that is not in our notes to talk about today on the Laravel News stuff. So I figured we could talk about some of those. So I've got 6 of them. I thought we could kind of just quick skim over those and kind of talk about some of the things that were announced.
Yeah.
You talked about the one, which was Laravel 6. Maybe you could talk just briefly about that, kind of like what that is.
Yeah, so I guess the biggest thing with Laravel 6 is that there's not going to be a whole heap of breaking changes. Laravel has historically followed a paradigm major minor version structure. It's never followed semantic versioning. So realistically, the only thing that changes from a developer perspective here is that we are going to start using semantic versioning and following that major minor patch structure, making it more clear to consumers of the framework, when to expect things changing and when to expect things breaking and things like that. But for all intents and purposes, moving from Laravel 5.8 to version 6 is not going to be a breaking change based on the information that we've got available now. It's really just about bringing in that new versioning scheme, and then that signifies Laravel following that moving forward. So whether or not we continue to see the same 6-monthly release cycle and, when the next version of Laravel comes out in February, whether that means that's going to be version 7 or if that's going to be version 6.1 or 6.7 or whatever we happen to be at based on whatever changes happen in the next 6 months, I don't know. But whether or not we see a major version every 6 months is another thing. Symfony has followed semantic versioning for a long time, and they don't necessarily have a new major version. So the major version really just signifies a change in the shift of how we're going to do that. And along with the new version, for those of us that have been around the community for a while, each major version of Laravel has typically brought a new brand or a new feel to the framework and the the websites and the stuff around it. So that's what we're going to see here. There's a new Laravel logo, which I have on my desk here. Hello. This little fella.
There it is. There it is. It's a beaut.
Inverted. So this is the new Laravel logo. There's a new website. The docs have been done. They'll be responsive for those of you who, for whatever reason, are viewing the Laravel docs from your phones. So all of that's happening.
Or iPads.
Or iPads, yeah. So all of that stuff's happening as part of this new release. So Taylor spent a lot of time and invested into, having I think it was it Focus Labs was the name of the agency that was
Focus Labs. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, for doing the new branding. So a lot of work has gone into it. So we look forward to that. I'm sure people have seen, screenshots and things like that around the place. I think Taylor said he was going to try and get the new website and the new docs out ahead of version 6 of Laravel, which we're expecting typically around Laracon EU. So we'll see that later this month.
Yeah, I was really impressed. I think that it's all super well done. Of course, Taylor's always been very concerned with like the graphical elements of Laravel, which is something I think that's kind of helped to set it apart as well. It's just always like a super polished feel and a super polished brand to Laravel. So this was no different, but this is probably the largest change for the website in probably a long time, quite a while.
Like version 2, I would have thought. Version 2, version 3, maybe.
Yeah.
Number of years at least.
Yeah. So a lot of changes there. So yeah, looking really good. I was excited that we got new shirts this year that were not Laracon shirts, but they were Laravel shirts, right? So Laravel 6 shirts. So that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. Yep. Okay. We also had Vapor. That was the other biggest thing that was released. So Vapor is a serverless deployment and management tool for your Laravel applications. It is Laravel specific. It is not general PHP at all. It is Laravel specific. So if you are interested in doing serverless deployments and managing serverless servers, that's not even a thing, serverless stuff, sites, serverless applications, thank you. Yeah, then Vapor is the thing you want to be looking at. So it ties in really, really tightly with AWS Lambda. And if I said I understood all of it, I would be lying. But what I do know is that it auto scales and it's managed for you, right? So no more OS updates, none of that stuff. That's all handled for you. Auto scaling, it uses all of the AWS services behind the scenes. So it uses RDS. It uses what's the one? Oh, there's one. I can't remember what he's using for queues. What's the name of it? Do you remember?
It's using
Is it just Redis?
It's
It's
just
using
using
Redis. Like,
Redis. Yep. Yep.
okay,
So I mean, I think it's using DynamoDB out of the box. But
that's
if
it.
you need
DynamoDB. Thank you.
something more readily available and more scalable, then you've got the Elasticache Redis clusters available as part of, they're available via AWS for you. So I think
Yeah,
the
all the
most
things that
sorry,
you normally have
yeah.
to kind of tie. Basically, yeah, you're right. All the things you have to time manually. Normally, you basically can just set up through the console. So you can say, hey, I want a bigger database server, and it will provision it for you straight there. And then you can do the same thing with all the other services. So, you know, SES, simple email sending. Of course, you have S3 for all your file storage and all that stuff. So managing your ENVs is actually much simpler as well with Vapor because it handles all of that. Like any of those keys that need to be brought into your config or into your ENV that are going to be used in your config, those are all managed by Vapor. So your ENV stuff ends up being probably like 5 or 6 lines, just like third-party stuff that you're going to end up using.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. So it seems very what did they say? It's
lets you fall in love with the whole thing. Like
I can't remember
most
the word. Like it's
importantly,
ready for the big time. What's the
enterprise.
word? What's
Enterprise.
enterprise? Thank you. It's enterprise ready, right?
Yeah.
It scales to enterprise level. Yeah.
Most
So
importantly,
looks
I
really, really
think
cool.
most importantly, the biggest problem because PHP is only relatively recently supported in the whole AWS Lambda infrastructure, but I think most importantly about the way that Taylor has managed to build this is that you don't have to change the way that you build your Laravel applications to deploy into a serverless infrastructure. So you build a Laravel application for Vapor in exactly the same way as you've been building Laravel applications up until now, and it will handle all of your scheduled tasks, all of your queue jobs, all of your databases, all of that kind of stuff will be managed for you. It'll do domains, it'll do DNS, it'll handle setting up all of your DKIMs and your SPF records and things like that to make sure mail works. It'll handle cloud storage via S3. There's a package that Taylor built in terms of it's a JavaScript component that you can throw into your app that will handle uploading directly from the browser straight into S3 without touching the server. So typically you would upload the file to your server and then your server would upload into S3. So you've got that sort of two-staged approach, which is obviously slower than uploading from the client directly into S3. But it provides you metrics and CloudFront management. It gives you multiple environments, so you could have unique URLs for your staging and development environments. It allows you to do, rolling back your entire application. You can do point-in-time restoration of databases.
Like down to the second.
Yeah, down to the second. It'll integrate tightly with your, your current build pipeline. So if you're using GitLab or if you're using something like Chipper CI, thanks to the guys at David Hempel and Chris Fidel, Taylor showed off the integration of Vapor into the Chipper CI build and test pipeline. So you just add it as another step, and once all your tests pass and your build finishes, it will deploy directly from there into your Vapor infrastructure. So it manages as many projects and as many deployments as you want. There's no restrictions around that. You've got teams, and basically there's a monthly fee for Vapor itself. So it's $39 per month, which will give you the access to Vapor, or there's an annual option. And then you just plug in your AWS credentials and then you pay AWS whatever AWS charges directly to them. So you get your monthly account from Vapor for the management of all of the infrastructure and the serverless environment. And then you just pay AWS whatever it costs there. And I think the way that it's built for the first 1 million requests or something like that, you don't pay anything, inside of the Lambda free tier. So there's a good chance that you won't end up paying anything for a while, depending on the size of your application. Obviously, for those of you that are running, $2.50 or $5 a month virtual private servers through Vultr or Linode or whatever, this may not necessarily be the right thing for you, because you're going, straight away from $5 a month to, $40, $50, $60 a month once you start including your database. But if you're at the scale and you're ready to go, then, Vapor is certainly something that's really cool. But as I said, unlimited projects, unlimited deployments, you've got teams, all of that stuff is built in from the start. If you're interested in checking out, it's not quite ready yet. Jump on the mailing list at vapor.laravel.com, and Taylor's going to start getting a few people in. I think he said he wanted to get 100 or so people in to an early access just to test everything out, make sure everything's working, before launching later this month around Laracon EU. So definitely check it out. If you want to know more about sort of the technical side of Vapor and things like that, there's the Laracon US talk is up online already. There's an episode of Full Stack Radio. We'll link these up in the show notes that you can check out. And I think Taylor said, he spent 45 or 50 minutes or so at Laracon US talking about Vapor. He didn't cover everything. So things like warm booting your instances, and basically it'll just keep these things alive, so you don't ever have that cold boot, unless you get a sudden spike in visitors to your site. But I think he said in the Full Stack Radio episode that he'll probably talk more about Vapor at Laracon EU as well. So definitely look to that to check that out at some stage, or later this month when that happens. So look, it's a really cool project. I don't think it'll be for everyone, but there's nothing like this out there currently for any language or any framework. And the fact that Taylor's been able to kind of build Vapor as the creator of Laravel, it's been easy for him to tightly integrate and like sneak little bits and pieces in needed to make it work. So it's a really cool project, and if it's for you, definitely check it out, because I think it's it certainly takes away the need to ever have to worry about managing servers and server infrastructure and security updates and patching PHP versions and things like that. So check it out.
Sounds good. Thanks, dude. That was awesome. I learned something from that. That was amazing. It was almost like you had notes beside you or something.
Just scrolling through the website.
So speaking of Chipper, so Chipper was one of the things that he showed off. So he was, it doesn't, it handles all the deployments and those things, but obviously like Vapor doesn't handle like running your tests and those sorts of things. So Chipper was something that like you said, David Hemphill and Chris have created that is basically a test runner and a piece that you would integrate into your continuous integration pipeline, so that you can run all of your PHP unit tests and your Dusk tests really simply for your Laravel application, as well as any other custom scripts that you need to run. So we got a little peek at that, and basically you can kind of inject at any point what you'd like to do. So it comes with, hey, let's go ahead and run PHP unit. Let's go ahead and run the Dusk tests. But then after all those pass, you can say, go ahead and send a deploy command over to Vapor. And so it makes it really, really simple to integrate there, and seems like a really, really nice, easy workflow. And I think that's the entire point, right? It's not like there aren't other solutions out there for this. And as I was talking to David, he even said as much. He's like, if you have a solution that you're happy with, we're not like trying to solve every problem for everybody. But if like you're building a typical Laravel application and you're going to want to do these things, this is a really good tool for you. It's amazing. It's an amazing tool for people who aren't currently doing continuous integration and want to get started, because Michael, I'm sure you can attest to this as well. Like getting started in that space can be really annoying until you figure it out. And then just basically you're copying and pasting your config for every app that you're building, into the new repo, so that you can bring over all the hard learned lessons that you had from the last time you did it, and maybe making some small tweaks. But with Chipper, it seems like it's going to be pretty painless and really simple to integrate into your applications. So I think they have a sign up list for that right now. It's actually open to paid, paid beta. Is it a paid beta? Is that what they're calling it?
Yeah, I think so. We'll we'll speak to the guys and see if we can get a link in the show notes to sign up for that. I think most importantly with
If you go
Chipper
to Chipper
is that
CI,
I think most importantly with Chipper is that it is built specifically for Laravel. So, we've got Travis and we've got GitLab, and you can make all these things work. And as you said, Jake, people tend to just copy and paste their pipeline configurations from one project to the other. The biggest selling point for Chipper is that it is built specifically for Laravel. So it's got all of the Laravel specific. It makes the assumptions about how your projects are built, and that way you just drop your application in there and off it goes. So when they were in a earlier alpha, I was working a bit with Chris to sort of tweak it a little bit to give some extra functionality that we need for our sort of not really standard Laravel applications. And it was not far off. Like, we got it working pretty quickly. But critically, you just point your repo at it, you push your commits up to it, and it'll run the commits. And I found it to be significantly faster than running through GitLab or through Travis or anything like that. So definitely check it out if you want to get some kind of continuous integration up and running, but you're not really sure how. You don't want to spend the time configuring GitLab. Being able to automatically run your test every time you push changes up to make sure that your code does actually work in a different environment is really key to having a robust application. So definitely check it out. We'll get links in the show notes for Chipper as well.
Yeah, they do have it is available to be signed up for right now. So it's app.chipperci.com/register. So it's $40 a month, but it comes with a 14-day free trial. So there's unlimited projects, unlimited team members, and one concurrent build currently. But they said they can increase that. I know Tom Schlick was reaching out to them, and he said, we want like 2 concurrent builds. And they said, no problem, we can customize that. So it's set to be 1 concurrent build by default, but they can change it up for you and, change some billing accordingly. So, yep, looks really, really cool. Yeah. So that's Chipper. We also had a couple of things that were released during talks. So there's, I know, at least 2 sort of course offerings. One by Jonathan Rennick, which was Eloquent, his Eloquent course that he's building. So 2 years ago, he did a talk at Laracon Online about Eloquent and basically pulling back the covers on some of the way that he does his queries in there, and I was blown away by how he's using that tool. And he had some amazing code, basically the way that he was writing his queries that was so much different than the way that I was writing mine, and so much more efficient, and just like cleaner, way cleaner. And I remember thinking at that point, like, if he had a course for this, I would totally pay for that. And so he came again this year and basically built an application on stage where he was demoing, here's the different types of things you need to be aware of when you're, eager loading. N+1 isn't the only thing you need to be worrying about. There's also these hydrated models that you need to look at. And that contributes to in response from the server. And so he basically wrote a plugin for Laravel debug bar that was showing how many models were being hydrated, and it was pretty eye-opening, really. It's a metric I've never looked at. But a lot of times you look at those queries in debug bar and you can see the memory going up, but you're not exactly sure why. Or like, I'm handling all the N+1s, but why is this happening? So he showed a couple cool tricks that you can use to get around those problems, and then basically again kind of launched this course that he's saying this is going to be released in the near future here. So we'll put that up in the show notes, but that was one of them. The other one was Christoph Rumpfel, and I'm trying to remember the name of his. Was it like
Laravel Core Adventures?
That's it. Yeah, it's like Laravel Core Adventures Pro. Mm-hmm. So he has Laravel Core Adventures, and he's had that for a while, but he's basically making a new Pro offering. So that was released as well. We'll make sure we get a link to that in the show notes. And actually, I'm sorry, when I say it's released, I don't know if it's actually released. I think it's coming. I don't know if it's actually out there yet, but at least an email list for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely a whole bunch of free videos that he's published previously, and I'm not sure if the Pro is available. I think it is available now. So that gives you a whole lot of extra. It's 3 hours of additional videos. You get a sticker pack. And it really helps you to, master Laravel's core. So definitely check that out. There's some upcoming videos around notifications and testing. So as you said, we'll have links for that in the show notes. The other
And that was
thing,
his talk as well. Actually, he did that through. He kind of took like three different pieces of the core
mhm,
of Laravel and explained how they work. That was pretty interesting.
yeah,
He did a really good job with that. So no doubt he'll do the same with his course offerings as well.
yeah, yeah. The other really cool thing that was announced at Laracon was by Caleb Porzio, and that was the Livewire framework. He's been on this like spiritual journey, this sabbatical, whatever that he took when he when he left Titan earlier in the year, and he started building this Livewire project, which is like it's like a Phoenix. It was an Elixir or something that had a similar thing, where essentially you can
Yeah,
have reactivity between your views and your backend without writing any JavaScript. I don't know how it all works. I think it's all very magical. And until I saw his presentation at Laracon, I wasn't really sold on the whole concept. But goodness me, if I don't have to write any more JavaScript for the rest of my life, I will be happy. So it's hard to explain exactly what this is, but basically, think of it this way: if you are predominantly a backend developer and you do not enjoy writing JavaScript, then I think you should definitely have a look at Livewire at least and just see how it gives you all of that reactivity. You know, say that you were building a Twitter clone, for example, and you have like an input to send a new tweet, and when you hit submit, it sends an Ajax request, and then it, pushes the content of that tweet into an object, an array of tweets, and then it pushes that into the page. Well, think about doing all of that without having to write the JavaScript side of things, and it all just works. As I said, it's
and to
hard
be
to,
honest, not
yeah,
only not only not have to write the JavaScript things, but avoid writing a lot of the server side things too. Because like think about it, you're not creating an endpoint either. There is no controller. It's
yeah,
just a component. Like the
correct.
component handles the endpoint that would need to be used. It handles all of that. It just pipes it through to this component that you're using, and then you can do anything you want. So like you can do your eloquent, create in there,
Mm-hmm.
and you're done. Like that's
Yep.
it. There's no controller. And then I think the other thing that's really exciting about too is the testing story on this thing is amazing. That's like he wrote it so that these things are very simple to test. So you don't have to set up Jest to do snapshot testing and all this craziness. Like it's just built in. You can run it
Mm-hmm.
with PHP unit. It's beautiful. It's
Yep.
really, really nice.
Yep.
So
Definitely check it out. I don't know that anyone else announced anything. I know that Matt Stauffer announced onramp.dev, which is
mm-hmm.
a project
Yep,
that he
yep.
wants to take to the community in terms of getting people that are not. So Laravel has always been really good at getting PHP developers into the framework. That's simple because you have a base understanding of Laravel, of PHP rather. But what Matt's wanting to do with OnRamp is to bring people who are not PHP developers and teach them how to, teach them the basics of PHP and then teach them to get into Laravel. So this is talking about folks that have done boot camps or they're, just interested in building something themselves and not really knowing where to begin. So this is about getting someone who's not familiar with PHP at all confident and skilled enough to be able to work with the Laravel framework. So that's going to be a community project. It's going to form part of the Laravel podcast season 4, where he's going to go through each of these different topics around HTML and basic conditionals and the language itself and some of the lower level beginner type stuff about learning PHP and getting right through into being able to use Laravel. And then obviously you've got things like Laracast and you've got Laravel up and running, the book now as well, which is in its second edition, that you can, take that the next step, because we've got all of those intermediate to advanced resources for Laravel, but nothing really to bridge the gap from nothing to Laravel. So I think this is a really cool initiative, and it'll be interesting to see how it takes shape over the next 12 months or so.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of things that are assumed knowledge that it's kind of like if you have kids and they come home and they have like their math book and they're like, hey, how do I do this thing? And you're like, oh man, like I know how to do that, but I'm having a really hard time explaining to you how to do that. Like, how does division work? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I know division, but trying to explain it to you is very difficult. because I just know in my head.
Yeah.
And so it's like that where like if you're trying to teach a junior developer and they don't know Git yet, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I don't really have a great way to explain it. This is just, you should just know this by now, right? And so
Yeah.
there's a lot of this assumed knowledge that you kind of have to have in order to be able to get a job, right? And that's what it says here. It's like the tech concepts you should know in order to get a job as a Laravel developer. So
Yeah.
enabling people to be able to do that. And so there's like a, it's a decent list here of links to articles or videos that you can watch that you need to be up on. Basic terminal commands, HTML, CSS, Git, local PHP environment, beginning PHP, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so that was pretty awesome. And then there's a couple other things on back burners right now that other people have not announced yet, but have kind of been teasing. I know like Frake is teasing some stuff online right now, which they'll hopefully be revealing at Laracon EU. Jonathan Renick has also been working on Inertia. He's been talking about that a little bit on Twitter. So yeah, there's just so much stuff going on right now. Kind of crazy, but exciting time to be a part of the Laravel community.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. We've got, let's see, I'm trying to see if there's anything else that we really want to talk about. I don't really think that there is. Oh, one other thing, Laravel Cloud Source, the source code on GitHub. It's now on the black market.
Yeah.
And now it's on the black market. So the source for Laravel Cloud. So Laravel Cloud was actually something that Taylor showed off at Laracon New York City the last time we were in New York City. There was like 17. He didn't really talk about it. He just did it, right? He just kind of did it from the command line. Yeah. And so it was actually a fully fleshed out application. And so what he's done is he's released the source code for it online, or he did for a day, I think.
Yeah.
And then there was enough trolls and not even, and there was enough trolls and people out there that were just, that he basically pulled it back off of GitHub. But there's a lot of forks out there. So if you're interested, you could probably find one. Maybe we'll put a link to one in the show notes that you can fork off of. Nope. Michael's like, nope, we're not doing that. Okay. No. We won't do that. You have to go find it yourself.
Yep.
You blew it. All of you. No, here's the deal. The people who listen to this show would not have blown it. It's all the people who don't.
Yeah, you can thank the people out there that are not nice.
That's right. We don't have any non-nice listeners.
No.
All of our listeners are great people.
If you happen upon this, it's a good insight into what a Laravel application that was built by Taylor as the creator of the framework looks like. And it was really good from a learning perspective in terms of testing and how he structures his application and how he structures his code and, all that kind of stuff. If you do find it, there is no front end for it. This is all back end stuff. It's all API driven, so it's not
also
like
make sure
to be pilfering it and then selling it as your own thing, which he expressly forbade. He said, "This is for your review. Do not deploy it. Do not use it. Do not sell it in any way unless you ask for my permission first."
Although Yaz, aka Ninja Parade, said, "Hey, I'm releasing this new thing called Laravel Cloud. If anybody's interested, I'm having signups starting whenever, whatever." That was funny. Okay, so two things. One thing I forgot to mention for Vapor is that it also has a command line utility, which allows you to do literally everything that you can do in the UI, but from the command line. That's super dope. Yeah. Second thing is that if you go look at Laravel Cloud source code, make sure it's a really good day for you, because you'll be depressed that your code does not look that clean once you get done looking at his, because you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is a complex application and it still looks like it's just so squeaky freaking clean. Like there is no garbage anywhere. It's like there's nowhere, as looking through it, there's nowhere I'm like, oh, this is a spot where he was like, to do, come back to this in a month and refactor it. It's all done. Like everything looks so polished. Oh, it makes me sick. We are not worthy.
Not at all.
Good job, Taylor.
We don't deserve it. And look, now we don't have it. So
no, we don't. It's all gone.
Anyway,
let's not end on that note, though. That's a sad note. Let's not end on that note. Let's end on a happy note. What's the happy note that we're ending on? We're done? You don't have to listen to us anymore?
You don't. No. I mean, the happy note is, I guess, that there is a Laravel version 5.8.30 was released with a new assert session has input method along with all the latest changes and fixes. It's a big release. So make sure you check out the full changelog, but there are a few little things that we'll hit here before we go. The first there are 2 new testing methods added for convenience, an option and an option JSON for making HTTP option requests. Next, we have new
that's
migration
nice.
methods available for UUID morphs, which take care of creating columns necessary for the type, the UUID field, and an index. The Mailgun transport class now has the capability of setting the endpoint if you need to switch domains and API endpoints. So if you want to send if you want to send emails on behalf of multiple tenants of your application, you can do that nice and easily. The WebP MIME type is now valid in the built-in image validation rule. And as I said at the top of this segment, the new assert session has input test method was added to the test response class. With this new method, you can avoid writing horrible test assertions based on internal names of flashed session data. We've now got support for custom Redis driver. Check out pull request 29275 if you want to know more about that specifically. And the last new feature that we're going to hit up is column collation support has been added in PostgreSQL. So you can check out the columns section under column modifiers in the docs for more details. The full list of fixes are below in the link that we'll put in the show notes. But that is all from us. This was a less newsy, more of a recap kind of episode of Laracon US 2019. If you do get the chance to attend a Laracon, whether that be Laracon US next year or Laracon EU, either of the main EU conference coming up in August or the Laracon South, which was held in Madrid this year, or please come and visit us out in Australia sometime. I know it's a long way to go, but it's a beautiful place to be in the middle of spring, and not too many creatures of deadly origin will be around at that time. Thanks also to...
Except for those drop bears.
Well, the drop bears are year-round creatures. Thanks also to this episode's sponsor, Rollbar. I believe this is, it's at least the first time since you and I have taken over the reins of the show that
true.
Rollbar has sponsored. So we thank them and encourage you to check them out. And other than that, we will be back here in 2 weeks.
Absolutely. And thanks to everybody who stopped to say hi at Laracon. It was really nice meeting all of you. Super cool to be able to put a face with some of the names that we've seen on Twitter, just saying hi and reaching out. So thanks so much for stopping and saying hi. This was episode 88. If you'd like to find show notes for this episode, you can find them at laravel-news.com/podcast/88. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter at Michael Dorinda, at Jake Bennett, at Jacob Bennett, or at Laravel News. Thanks so much for listening. Rate us up if you want. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Bye.